Oh,
Hi friends, welcome to this week's class of Dead Funny University. I am your host and fellow student Kelsey, and this is our 6th episode in our Zelda semester. To teach us, as with the rest of the episodes in this semester, is Chris, our visiting professor. And Chris, how are you doing today?
doing pretty good. Pretty good. Excited to move on to my favorite game of the series, Ocarina of Time.
Yeah!
So yeah, doing pretty good.
Good. All right. Well, jump in wherever. I'm ready to go.
Let's see here. We finished off on Four Swords. We sealed away Vati once again.
Yes.
That's all good to go. So now we're going to be moving into the era of the Hero of Time, which is where the official timeline has its last stop before it splits. So we're already almost to the split. So I'm super pumped about this. Anyways, at this point, it would be smart for us to recap certain things that happened so that way when we get to them, because a lot of stuff that we talked about earlier is actually going to come to fruition in this game. One of those being the Triforce. We haven't really talked about the Triforce since the beginning.
Okay.
The Triforce was sealed away in a temple, which we talked about, which was also on top of it, or on the bottom of another temple, which
That's
was
right.
the Temple of Time. Yep. And that was sealed by the sage. What's his face? I can't think of his fucking name right now. But anyways, what's his face? We talked about him. He's like episode 3. Yeah. And he sealed away the Temple of Time and basically created the entire Temple of Time. And they put the Master Sword in there to kind of just seal that whole temple up. That was the whole point in that. So this is the first time the Master Sword really comes into play. For, if anything was to ever happen, the great hero of time would show up, remove the sword, do what it needed to do.
Okay, so I have a question. He removes
Go
the
ahead.
sword to do what he needs to do, releasing
Mhm.
Demise, right? Like, isn't he
Yes. Well,
guaranteeing that he's about to make the situation so much worse?
he's going to release the actual, so it's not releasing Demise. Demise is technically dead because remember, Demise is the one that cast the curse. That there
That's
will always
right.
be
Yes, yes,
another thing of
yes.
evil.
Yes.
So that's what that sword is there for, is that if he's ever to show up again, we don't want to release Vati for the umpteenth fucking time. Let's have something else to fight evil for once than the same fucking sword
Yeah.
over and over again. Raru is the name of the fucking the guy, by the way. Anyways,
Oh, Sage Raru.
so
Got it.
yep. So he actually made the Temple of Time, sealed away all the other stuff, and basically was like, if we ever get to a darkness where this is needed, it's here, which was smart, but at the same time, we all know it's going to happen. Basically, the situation where we're going to get into the time split here is that at some point in time, Link is going to draw this sword. Now, when Link draws this sword, this is the important part to remember. So I want to make sure I preface this first, and then when we go through the story, we'll go through the story, and then that way, when we get to the time split, it will make a little bit more sense. So, or the timeline, should I say, the alternating timelines. When Link draws this sword, one thing always happens, and that is that he is frozen in time for 7 years. There's no ifs, ands, buts about that. He is frozen in time for 7 years. Whenever he releases it, the Temple of Time, that's the way it works, is that it's going to freeze him in time for exactly 7 years. So he ends up going from like the teenage boy to man, and that's the difference that you'll actually see in the game as well.
I'm so
Um,
confused. Are you going to keep explaining or can I ask
yeah.
questions?
No, you can go ahead and ask a question.
Okay, so when you say frozen in
Poke
time,
holes.
do you
Mhm.
mean that he literally freezes, so whatever he was coming to battle is going to reign for 7 years until he can finish pulling the sword? You're nodding.
So as the way the game is built is that you go through these 3 temples and then you end up going back through them again. Right?
Mhm.
So we go through these 3 temples to get these keystones. Once we use these keystones to get into the Temple of Time to be able to get the Master Sword, whenever he pulls it out, everything that he's done is done. Like, that's it. Like, whatever evil that was there that they were worried about is done. The unfortunate part is that a lot of the stuff that's being said to him and being egged on is somewhat false, and it's being done through the talks of Ganon, because this is where we first get Ganondorf. It's the first official reincarnation of Demise. It's the first time we've ever had him show his face. We haven't had Ganon or Ganondorf this entire time. It's been all about Vati. So it's our first actual reincarnation of Demise. So with that being said, Ganon basically shows up, and he's kind of like this. He makes himself out to seem like he is the actual best person to stop any kind of chaos from happening in Hyrule to the Hylian family, and they believe it. So he gets in deep with like the king and shit like that, but he knows that Zelda possibly knows who he is. So he's terrified of Zelda or Link figuring out who he is, and they're both kids. He actually sees Link one day whenever he's riding to the Hyrule Castle, and he just has that feeling because, as I told you, Demise, whenever he did the curse,
Yeah.
was that he's going to hate you and want to kill you for all of eternity.
Hmm.
That being said, Impa knows this because for some reason Impa's lived for thousands of years, and that's just never been fucking talked. She's like basically always a fucking reincarnation of her is what it fucking seems like. But
Emma's a
anyways,
fucking
it's never been
badass.
talked about. She's a badass for sure. So she knows this. Her job is to protect Princess Zelda. That is literally her job. So she's allowed, like on the castle grounds and stuff like that. She then starts helping you out to go through and do what you need to do to be able to stop Ganon, because she knows he's up to no good.
She's Ganon sus. Okay.
Ganon is making shit to look a lot more worse than it's. Ganon's making shit to look worse than it actually is, due to the fact that the more Impa sees, the faster Link's going to get to pull that sword out. Ganon's quest is to get Link to pull the sword. Link's frozen for 7 years. He can't do anything. Now Ganon can go get the Triforce. There's nothing
Whoa,
stopping
so
him.
yeah, he's physically frozen for 7 years and the world
7 years.
just continues on without him.
Correct. 100%. And the only reason he knows
That
about
is
this is because Zelda.
that is
Which
the
Zelda feels
worst.
guilty.
That's the worst fucking mechanism. Why? No, you need him to pull that sword when shit is going down. So he needs to be 7 years early on that to get it done? I mean, basically, he gets born and then you just wrap his hands around it and have him pull it, and then like hopefully in 7 years he'll start growing up, and then when he's older he'll be fine. Like, this is terrible. This is a bad mechanism.
Yep, it certainly is.
Who
So
designed
that's
this?
that was the person who built the fucking temple, apparently.
Sage
So that's
Rar's a
where
goddamn
Zelda
idiot.
feels. That's where Zelda feels guilty, and where the time split happens, because of her and her telling Link that it's even there and that he's the person that has to do all this, because Link doesn't know anything about his origins in this game, and I'll get to that line when we actually start the fucking game here. But she's the one that kind of fills him in on all this, so she feels like she's responsible. With her feeling responsible, basically, this is where the time split happens, where it goes 3 different routes. One, Link got enough training to become the hero he needed to do before he was frozen for 7 years, fights Ganon, and wins. That's one timeline. Link did not get enough training, pulls a sword, fights Ganon, and loses. That's the second timeline. And then the third one, Link pulls a sword, fights Ganon, wins. Zelda feels bad because Link didn't actually get to experience his childhood, because his 7 years he just stood in a fucking goddamn temple doing nothing. And sends him back in time to his kid self, which is the repeat of the child era, which goes to the third timeline, which goes more to where I told you there's a second 4 swords, and we'll get down to that when we go down the child era. So that's my favorite timeline, is the child era, because that's where we see Majora's Mask and stuff like that. That's where I really enjoy. I love that timeline a lot. The other timelines are good, but I love that one a lot.
So he's not aware then that he's standing there for 7 years.
No. Nope. He's
So
basically encapsulated, and then it just 7 years goes by. He comes out full grown man.
oh, so his body changes, but his mind is the same?
No, his mind changes as well, because he's kind of like he goes into this like spiritual realm where he actually meets Sage Raru and all of them and talks about like this is the stuff that's going to happen to fucking Hyrule and everything else. So like they basically all
Oh.
become buddies, like all the dead sages and stuff. They all become buddies for a good fucking while. And
Okay.
yeah.
So they I'm really proud of them. Let's take a second to talk about this. They could have just made it to where he's physically stagnant for 7 years and nothing changes,
Mhm.
and then everybody in his life moves on and he's left without them basically. And then I
Mhm.
can see the argument of his childhood got robbed from him, but he's actually having the chance to grow up mentally and physically in the care of people who care about him but also care about what he is to become and help him become that in as hopefully as kind a way as possible. So
Right.
that's of all possible options, that's not a terrible one.
Right. Exactly.
Interesting.
So yeah, like I said, it like I said, this is I say arguably, but it literally was like one of the only games to ever get a 10 out of 10 from every gaming publisher out there. This is literally known as the greatest game of all time. Like, period. No game has ever gotten tens across the board. It's never happened. Um, so as far as the story goes and kind of like how it all mixes and matches together, it seems weird, but it really does get cut in a way where it whenever you kind of hear the whole story and how it goes, and then it goes to this fucking time split, which obviously at the time, whenever this got voted, that's the thing that I love even more about this game is like the more it ages, the more you see that this is literally the fucking backbone of the entire series.
Hmm.
Like back when I played this game at that time, it was just this cool thing of like, oh, cool, now you get to be adult Link. You went from Kid Link to adult Link. This is awesome. Didn't really make sense to me about some time split because that wasn't even a thing. I mean, once again, this timeline didn't come out until like 2016.
Yeah.
Fucking Ocarina been out for long fucking time. I mean, this is back Nintendo 64 is whenever Ocarina of Time came out.
Oh,
It's an old,
whoa.
yeah, this is an old fucking game. To where like what you were just hearing about, like Four Swords, the Fourth Era, and Minish Cap, those are newer games. Those are definitely like
Mhm.
late 2000 and teen games. So yeah. No, this is definitely like interesting to see how they've went back and created this entire story and timeline based off of how this game went because in the game there's no secret endings. You get the sword, you beat Ganon, you win. That's game over. There's no secret endings. They went and made these other timelines being like we have an option to like split realities here
Yeah,
and down multiple ones based off this one game. Let's go back and do that. And they did. And it's fucking amazing. Like I
that's
would have
awesome.
never thought of that. Yeah, I would have never thought of that. And it fucking blows my mind. It's really fucking cool because then that gave them these three different timelines that they can fucking play with. And even still today, like Skyward Sword, that was the first game that we started with. That's like that game came out on the Wii U. Like that's a newer game. And that's the beginning of the timeline. So then that also gives them that option to go back and build the before, and then they can build the after. And if shit doesn't link up, cool, another timeline. Cool, another timeline. Like they can just keep throwing shit. And it's really kind of interesting how they've done it and have made this story and it actually makes sense.
Except for Breath of the Wild that they decided, who cares about a timeline? This is just gonna exist in space.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean,
They're gonna have to link it
whenever the
eventually.
experts come out, yeah, when the experts come out and say, "Hey, this is how it fits, and this is exactly where it fits," then cool. But until then, yeah, I don't. You got me. I don't know where the fuck it goes in the timeline. Not at all. My guess is going to be at the end and possibly, well, they could actually just make it right at the end of fucking Ocarina. They literally could and put it underneath where the hero loses. Because I mean, that timeline goes with the whole hero losing, and in the beginning of Breath of Wild, is Link got his ass kicked, and now he woke up 100 years later in a rejuvenation tank. So they could start a whole nother fucking timeline of when the hero loses. Could be, could be. I don't know. I don't work at Nintendo. I
You
wish
heard
I
it here,
did, but I
folks.
don't. Yeah, if they put it there, fucking, they got it from me. Like, Nintendo hire me. Ease. Let's go.
Or he'll sue. Those are the obvious answers.
And Dead Funny gets shut down tomorrow.
Yeah, we're not taking on Nintendo, everybody.
No, not even close. Nope, I do not want that fight. I have seen what they've done to independent people who have tried to make like emulators and stuff like that where you can play these Zelda games for free. Nintendo does not fuck around. They do not fuck around at all. At all. The
Zero
fact that they're
fuckery.
even partnered with other gaming studios, or not studios, but other gaming systems
Uh-huh.
to do this whole cross-platform thing blows my mind. Like
Oh, they're that bad.
I get why Sony doesn't do it because Sony's always been dicks. They've been a bag of dicks since they started, and they'll be a bag of dicks till the end. I get that. Nintendo, I just really it blew whenever they were like Xbox and Nintendo are teaming up. I was like, what? Like it blew my mind. It blew my fucking mind. You'll still never see Nintendo licensing on another console. That won't happen. But you can officially there are some games out there where I can jump on my Switch and cross play with someone on a fucking different video game system, which is kind of crazy. So, but you'll never see the Nintendo licensing somewhere else. That just won't happen. I'll never get to play Zelda on my computer, unfortunately. Unless I find some bootlegged fucking emulator and then I'm gonna fucking get viruses. So
Yeah, viruses.
woo! But anyways, so Ocarina of Time. So we kind of talked about the timeline. We got that a little bit more figured out about how we're gonna have those splits. So that way when we get there, it will make a little bit more sense as we go along. And then obviously there will still be questions. We'll answer those as we go. I don't expect this to be a one episode inside of Ocarina of Time. It's probably going to take us more like 2 episodes to knock out Ocarina because it's that vast. So we'll try to focus
Mhm.
more leading up to the Temple of Time. And then we'll probably do the next episode where we hit the Temple of Time and then finish game. And then we'll move down the timeline. So Ocarina of Time starts pretty cool with, I think it was, you've got this woman riding on a horse. She's holding a little baby. She's trying to get the fuck out of Dodge. Next thing you know, you wake up, you're in this house, and you're a little kid Link. That's all you know at first. What I find really cool about this is that this already sets Link's like true origin up to be a mystery that you're going to have to solve during the game, which is pretty cool already.
Yeah.
So you wake up in this nice little village, which is known, and we've kind of already talked about these people before, but we'll go ahead and go back into them again, which are the Kokiri village, which all the little fairy kids. And as you can see, all of those little fairy kids have their own little fairies. But one thing that you will notice is that the only person there that doesn't have a fairy is our buddy Link. Or for those of you who play the game and get upset every time I say Link, it is his name, but whatever the fuck you choose to name him, because in Zelda games you can name Link whatever you want to. Anyways, the cool aspect that I like the most about them not giving him Navi right off the bat is that he's actually been in this forest village for as long as he can remember, but at the same time, everyone treats him as an outsider because he doesn't have a fairy.
Mhm.
He looks like them. He's got long ears. He looks just like another one of the Kokiri kids, but he doesn't have his fairy. And it's always said that whenever a Kokiri kid is born, there is a fairy that's automatically assigned to them from the Great Deku Tree. And that fairy is to help them move on throughout their entire life, give them their advice, da 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 da. It's basically like your life partner, if you will. So Link ends up kind of getting a little restless of like, I'm not getting fairy. All these kids are picking on me. What the hell's going on? So Link decides that he is going to go and speak to the Great Deku Tree directly. Well, unfortunately, as you can kind of see in the picture, there's actually that one kid that's sitting like right next to Link. That dude's a dick. He guards the Great Deku Tree because that is his life's mission. That is what he is there to do, and he's not going to let you pass. It's not going to happen. You can't go see the Wiku or the Deku Tree because you're weak and scrawny, and if something was to happen, you can't protect it. Type deal.
Quick
So
question.
Link, go ahead.
So he says it's his life mission. Did he assign himself that mission? Is this coming from the Deku Tree himself? Is this coming
From the
from the
Deku Tree.
community? Okay, so the Deku Tree's picked this guy and been like, "You're an asshole. I want you to stand next to me and keep people away from me for life." All right, great. Deku Tree's an introvert. That's what we learned.
Deku Tree is worried because there's somebody that he doesn't want to come see him, aka Ganon. So he has to do what he can to make sure that if that time comes, he's ready for it. Which there's Great Deku Tree, by the way.
Got it.
I know I've told you him before. I love the Great Deku Tree. He's the shit. Anyways, and what's also funny too, I know you don't watch the show because you're waiting on me to sit you down and force you to watch the show. But Deku from My Hero Academia,
Hmm.
every time you type in Deku Tree now, like there's the tree and it's got Deku's face from My Hero Academia on the tree. Fucking hilarious. I love it. So Link has to do his normal aspect of I'm gonna go get my weapons and stuff like that. So it's kind of just your tutorial. So you end up getting the uh is it actually yeah you get the Kokiri sword or Kokiri sword, and then you get this like little wooden shield, which is pretty cool in my opinion, for them to kind of have like Link as his own like little kid aspect where he kind of gets his own kit, because obviously if adult Link was to be using these weapons they would be extremely small and he would look fucking ridiculous. So kind of makes sense, and a lot of the stuff would be like a fucking dagger for adult Link, if you will. Anyways, and then there's a nice picture of both of them together so you can kind of see the transformation. So, yeah, so he's got to go get a sword and shield and prove that he's worthy to seek the tree's audience. So you go around, you go get that. Nothing too crazy is going on there. It's just more along the lines of just figuring out. So the reason, and I think I might have said this in a couple episodes ago, but I'll reiterate it here now that we're in my favorite game. The reason why I love Zelda games is because it's not just guy goes, beats up villain, saves princess, they live happily ever after. There's a
It's not
lot more
Mario.
complex shit going on, right? There's a lot more complex shit going on, and on top of that, Zelda is known for its puzzles. So you're not just hacking and slashing your way through something. You will get to a point where you have to use your fucking brain in order to move forward. You can't just beat through everything, which is really cool, and I really appreciate it when games do that because it throws that added aspect in there where actual gamers like me who, like, for instance, this game right here, I will never ever use a walkthrough. It won't happen. That was something that I promised myself as a kid. I was like, Zelda is one of those games where it's like, if I physically can't mentally beat a Zelda game because the puzzles are that hard, I don't want to beat it. I just don't. I will not look it up. I literally will not do that. Won't happen. Final Fantasy, I've used walkthroughs multiple times because there's so much shit in that game to get that you can miss. That's a different scenario. There's no puzzles in Final Fantasy. You can easily get through it. My first time playing 7, obviously, I didn't use a fucking strategy guide, but I mean, fucking right here for fucking everybody. I still have my original fucking walkthrough of that game. It's seen some better fucking days, obviously. So, like I said, I do not own any strategy guides for Zelda. I will never look at a strategy guide for Zelda. And that's because I feel like this is one of those games where, like I said, if I can't beat it, then I can't beat it. That's just all there is to it. I will literally be happy knowing that a Zelda game beat me, or that I beat all the Zelda games versus a Zelda game beat me into submission to the point where I decided I was going to go look up a fucking walkthrough to get through it. It's not going to happen. So far, we're all good. I've beaten every Zelda game there is to play. So
Except
haven't gotten
Majora's
there yet,
Mask.
but they do get no. I beat Majora's Mask. I know people
Oh.
who are hardcore Zelda fans that did not beat Majora's Mask.
Okay. Thank you for
I
clarifying.
beat it. Yeah. For instance, my last relationship I was in, there's a couple of her family members that play Zelda who've never beat Majora's Mask. Those of you who know Tony on the channel, or not on the channel, but on Darkstar, he's never beat Majora's Mask, and this is one of his favorite game series of all time is Zelda. My dad never beat Majora's Mask. This is who I picked fucking Zelda up from. Yeah, there's a lot of people I know that are hardcore Zelda. I probably know maybe 2 or 3 people besides myself who have actually beat Majora's Mask. It's that fucking hard. Like it's just it's the first time they ever threw another mechanic in there where if like you don't get all your shit done that you need to get to, it all gets wiped. And it's rough. It's not
Yeah,
easy.
that inspires rage quits.
It definitely was the longest Zelda as far as taking time to do it. As far as for me goes, yeah, like
Mhm.
I definitely spent more time on Majora's Mask trying to do everything I possibly could because there's so many aspects of it. I mean, there's things where it's like, obviously just from the title, you know that there's mask in the game. If you don't get all the mask, you don't get the fierce deity mask, which we'll get more into when we get there. But it makes you like super fucking powered, and it makes the end game even that much fucking harder if you don't have all the mask. And I had to find that out the hard way. So then I had to go back through Majora's Mask and make sure I got all the fucking mask, so that way I could get fierce deity and see how it would be different whenever going through it with that as well. Because first time I did it, I didn't have that mask, and that was fucking rough. That last boss is a bitch. It was rough. But anyways, back to Ocarina. So yeah, like I said, it's really nice that they have these puzzles and stuff. You don't really see too much of it as Kid Link. It's more like when you kind of get in the towers or in the in the towers with Kid Link is where you'll kind of see a lot more of these puzzles and stuff going on. And then same thing when you come back through with Adult Link. But anyways, you get your sword, you get your shield. It's off to go see the Great Deku Tree. You get there and you talk to the Great Deku Tree, like, hey, what the fuck's up? Where's my fairy? Why are you being a dick? So on and so forth. And Great Deku Tree is basically like, you are not a Kokiri. This is your first time hearing this. You're not a Kokiri.
Oh.
Your mother was scared that your life was in danger when Ganondorf came to Hyrule, that she brought you here on her dying breath and left you with me to protect you from Ganon. So you're not even a Kokiri. Link's mind is just blown. Like, what? Like, that's why he hasn't gotten his fairy. He's not a Kokiri. Kokiri, or people who aren't Kokiris don't get fairies. But the Great Dooku knows that you're going to end up growing up to be what your mother thought you were going to be. She had to go through great lengths to get you there. So therefore, he's going to give you a fairy. And you get Navi, which ends up becoming your best friend for life through most of your fucking Zelda games. But some not, but is what it is. But we get our friend Navi, which is great. Love Navi. She's very annoying, but she's awesome. And he tells you that there's an unfortunate situation where you actually have to go inside the Deku tree because there's actually a sliver of evil inside of him, a darkness that you have to go in and take care of. And it's
Ooh.
slowly rotting him away from the inside.
Whoa.
This is where things get even cooler for the game because, like I said, you're a normal hack and slash. You're going to go take this out. Da, 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 da. This game has some depth to it. There's some actual fucking story, which is great. You love that in video games. So it's kind of like your first temple, which is pretty cool. So you go in, and there's all this shit for you to do, all these puzzles you have to solve to be able to get all over these different places, and then you end up getting into what we like to refer to in the Zelda room as the boss room, because there's one in every goddamn fucking tower you go to. And this ugly fucking insect piece of shit is what's actually inside the Deku tree causing the sickness.
Oh
And
my.
yeah, slowly rotting it from the inside, which is great because you walk in and it's all dark. And then, like, all of a sudden you hear a noise, and you look up, and that big ass orange eyeball is just staring at you on the ceiling.
That sounds like
Like,
a fucking nightmare. Like, that
yeah,
is
just a little
exactly
bit.
a nightmare I would have.
Now, there are people, because of how long this game's been out, there are people who have done the whole like professional speedrun aspect
Mhm.
to this game. And Tony is one of those. I don't know if he made it all the way through the game. I've never been one of those kind of people because to me, like, I just don't get the aspect of speedrun. It's
It
just
just
not.
yeah.
Like, I get it. I just don't enjoy it myself. Like, if I'm going to sit down to play a game, I want to play the story. I want to take my time. I want to enjoy the game.
Yeah.
After that, if I'm playing it again, it's because I consider myself to be a video game completionist, and I like to get all the trophies, all the achievements, da 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 da. I don't care about the speedrun aspect. That is not. I mean, Joey and them have tried talking me into speedrunning Final Fantasy VII so many times because I played it so many times. They're like, dude, you probably could have like one of the best times. Like, where everything's at. You know how to get from point A to point B as quick as possible. But I don't, because that's just not what I like. I'm just not a speedrunner.
Yeah.
Um, Tony has beaten this boss in like 0.8 seconds. I watched it happen. It blew my fucking mind. Like, I
What?
literally, It
Do you,
was literally one of the first times I ever saw Tony play a fucking video game. It blew my fucking mind. It was like within our first like 2 weeks of meeting, we were talking about Zelda. He's like, "Oh yeah, I could beat the first boss in like fucking 0.8 seconds." I was like, "What?" It's not actually 0.8 seconds. It's more like fucking like 5 or 6, but it's still that's fucking quick. Because
does
like
he
I get in a
just
room with this motherfucker, I'm gonna be there for a couple minutes.
does he just
Easy.
launch the Master Sword through the eyeball? Like, how does this work?
Well, the weird part is so there's these items. So this happens in every game with me, and there's been people that have pointed out in my stream, and there's actually been people who point out on the channel too in certain videos where it's like I'll pick up items that could be good. Like I got yelled at so many times when I was playing the remake, and I was like, guys, just let me do me, right? Grenades. I'm never going to use a grenade in a Final Fantasy game. That's dumb to me. I'm going to go through my item and pull a grenade and throw it. No, like I'm not going to watch Cloud throw a grenade at somebody. That's not Cloud. Like it's just not what he does. Barrett shooting a gun makes sense. It's on his fucking arm. I'm not going to fucking throw a grenade at somebody. So there's items that I won't use. It's just
Yep.
they're dumb. There's Deku nuts, which when you throw them, they make a blinding flash, which a creature that's mainly a fucking eyeball
Solid.
kind of fuck them up. So yeah, if you do a little bit of farming before you go in there and get enough of these, you can just spam these, beat the fuck out of him, spam it, beat the fuck out of him, spam it, beat the fuck out of him, he's dead.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking crazy. Like I said, I saw it happen. It blew my mind. I was like, what? I was like, I had no idea you could do that. So yeah, I'm pretty naive whenever it comes to things like that. There's a lot of people who like to take time to exploit whatever they can in a game and look at different things. I'm not knocking you for doing that. A lot of people like to do it. Obviously, it's in some kind of demand because people like to watch it happen. That's great. I'm just not your guy. Like, I'm not going to be one of those people. It's not fun to me. I like to enjoy story and stuff like that. That's the main thing that drives me into a game. I like to know what the fuck's going on. Let's get inside. Let's hear the story. Anyways, so you get inside and you end up killing the spider, and then you come back out to talk to the Great Deku Tree and let him know, like, hey, the virus that's inside of you, you're clean, you're good now, you're going to be able to survive. Wrong. That's where the issue comes into play.
Great.
Anyways, for some reason I had sent like a picture of Kid Link, and it's just now sending to you. So that's going to be weird now to the ordinary. So I just want to throw that out there. Anyways,
Thanks.
so you end up killing the great or the fucking thing. You come out and Great Deku Tree tells you it's too late. He's going to die.
Oh no.
Now remember, the asshole that let you in there to come see the Great Deku Tree is gonna come check on the Great Deku Tree when you leave.
Oh shit.
And it's gonna be dead. Exactly. So unfortunately, the Great Deku Tree does die, but before he dies, he makes a seed of himself that gets planted, but obviously that's not going to sprout till later. So we don't get to see that little guy until after our 7 years when we're frozen in fucking time.
He's so cute.
Right, baby Deku Tree. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's great. But here's where the sadness comes in. So I kind of downplayed this. I didn't really talk about it, and that's because I kind of wanted to hit you with that aspect first. So as Link was growing up in this town of the Kokiri, there was actually one person who was extremely nice to him. Is it Saria or what was her fucking name?
Well, it says Saria on the link you sent.
Okay, it does. Okay, I was trying to figure out where the fuck her name was at. Yeah, Saria. Anyways, I was thinking Saria or Serena. I couldn't remember which one it was. Saria. Anyways, so she was the only one that was nice to Link. And it's because she had a crush on him. She liked Link. She thought he looked cute. And he somewhat kind of had a crush on her too, but she didn't really. Once again, as we kind of talked about, I think like an episode or 2 episodes ago, was Nintendo really wanted Link to be you. You were the avatar. So it was kind of like how you felt about Saria and stuff like that. Anyways, but she easily had a crush on Link. And, she seems like a nice girl. But one of the reasons why I'm glad that that's not the main love interest is because what a lot of people don't think about is that Kokiri kids don't grow up. They don't. So that would have been their relationship. If it would have continued, which would have been kind of weird.
Not great. Not
they
awesome.
get older, but they don't grow. So that'd be very interesting relationship. Anyways, so I like the other way the better. Anyways, so but yeah, and that's probably why they're tucked away in the fucking forest, their own thing. Because like basically where they're at, one of the and that's one of the things I should have fucking started with, which I didn't even fucking grab, was a world map. But one of the one of the cool things that I like about this is, and this is the first time you actually like really get to see it, is they live in the Kokiri Forest, which is actually behind the Lost Woods. And the Lost Woods is probably my favorite fucking place in Zelda. It's so fucking cool. I love the Lost Woods so much. It's always like a maze. You never know where the fuck you're going. You got to try to just go in there and figure shit out. It's always rough. I mean, once again, this is not a game that babysits you. It doesn't. There's not a Zelda game out there that does.
Mm-hmm.
It's you get in the game, pay attention, follow along with the story. It will tell you where to go. You figure out how to get there on your own. Like that is literally how this game operates, and I fucking love it. But anyways, so as you can kind of see, the entrance comes in, and then you go straight into the Lost Woods. Oh, that's blurry as fuck. But you go into the Lost Woods, and then that's whenever you can move into the Kokiri Forest, which is down there in the bottom, which was that little pathway you can kind of see leading up to the Great Deku Tree. So they're like tucked away from everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably the reason for it, is so that way there's not like a whole bunch of fucking travelers coming through there. A lot of them are young and vulnerable type deal, would be my guess on why they decided to do that aspect. Unfortunately, she has always stood up for Link. So now he has to leave whenever they've been such good friends, and he obviously doesn't want to leave her. But at the same time, he's being forced out because people think that he killed the Great Deku Tree. And this is actually the last scene that you see, is like him running away because she taught him how to originally play the ocarina. She gave him his first ocarina and showed him how to play some of the music. And that's her at the exit of the Kokiri Forest going into the Lost Woods, and him running away crying because he doesn't want to leave, but he knows he has to. Because even the Great Deku Tree said, you need to leave. This is not where you're supposed to be. You're going to be something way bigger than this. You need to leave.
You're adopted. Get out.
Yeah, right.
You're adopted. I'm going to die, and everybody's going to blame you. So it's a good thing
And
that you're the
everybody's going to
chosen
blame
one.
you.
Fuck off.
Yep. And
God.
immediately as soon as you're walking out, that fucking bully, jackass, asshole kid is immediately fucking like, come back here. You killed the Great Deku Tree, you dick. Yeah.
Now, does she think he killed the tree? Or does she believe him when he's like, nah, it wasn't me?
No, she knows. She knows he didn't kill the tree.
Why the hell didn't the Deku Tree ask the asshole to go and take care of it? Why did he have to pick Link and then die on Link's watch?
Because he knew from the get-go that Link would have to be the one, that kid wouldn't be able to survive and go in there and do what needs to be done. He knew from the get-go.
So you're talented and gifted and special, but you're going to get ostracized for it. Have a good day, adopted kid.
Yeah. Yep.
Rude.
Unfortunately. Yep.
To be clear, being adopted is not a bad thing. It's just the way this was done doesn't feel very good for Link.
No, he didn't really have a strong hand in this, and unfortunately, things just tend to happen the way that they did, and it led him to have to make a lot of hard decisions very early on as a kid. That's like people say, that's to help build his character.
That doesn't build character.
I always love that shit when I'd be at work, like, your early jobs that you get at like retail stores and shit. And they're like, oh, go do this. You're like, I don't want to do this. Like, it builds character. And it's like, no, get the. There's never going to be a time where I'm like, you know what? That one time that I fucking mopped the boys' restroom,
built
made me
that.
the man I am today.
Yep.
Made me the man I am today. I'll never forget it. Anyways, but yeah. So yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a pretty solid spot for us to go ahead and kind of stop it here. Gives us kind of like the beginning of The Legend of Zelda as far as Ocarina of Time is concerned. We kind of spent a little bit of time talking about the timeline difference, but once again, by the time we get there, for those of you who are watching at home, it will kind of help make sense. Once again, this is something where I'm going to strongly suggest, and I know Kelsey will do this at the end of the episode as well, but strongly suggest if you have questions, put them in the comments, because I would be more than happy to dedicate some time at the end of the next video or the next video, if you keep doing it, where we can answer some of these questions as well. Yes. Because as much as this is a section for Kelsey to be able to learn some of these games that I love and that other people love on the channel and stuff like that, and for her to get a little bit deeper into our video game culture, it's also a chance for you to ask those questions as well, because there might be something that Kelsey hasn't thought of yet. And it might be a good question that she might want to ask if she knew what the fuck it was.
Yeah.
So you could be helping her. So definitely strongly encourage that. This is definitely one of those games to do it. If Final Fantasy wasn't a game for you to do it, this is definitely one of those, because we're going to get in timelines. Final Fantasy 7, once you beat it, you can walk the fuck away. Final Fantasy 8 has nothing to do with 7. Final Fantasy 6 has nothing to do with 7. These all chronologically go in a fucking order, and it gets tricky from here on out. Really does. So if you get confused by something, please ask. Please. And then we will dedicate some time to be able to talk about that as well and make sure everybody's everybody's questions get answered, because the main point in this show is to teach Kelsey, but also
Yes.
to teach you. That is the entire point in this show.
Yep.
I cannot express that enough. She's not the only student. You guys are also the students, or you're here to also correct me whenever I fuck up, because that could happen. So once again, comments
I'm the only one
below.
taking this class for credit, but the rest of you are auditing this, either as a
There you go.
professor auditing him to make sure that he's telling me correct information, or for your own enrichment. And absolutely, our comments are definitely a place to correct us, because we do get things wrong. Guess what, guys? We're still human. Hey! And on top of
Hey,
that, we also I'm trying to do so many things while we're doing the show. Learning is only one of the multiple pieces that I'm trying to manage. And so having you guys call out, "Oh, hey, Chris didn't explain this particularly well," or what happened with this? And you guys taking that extra step is super helpful for us. The only thing that isn't
yeah,
helpful is spoilers. And you guys know that because you guys are great people and you're not putting them down there. And even if you are, Chris will find them. He will mentally yell at you and then he will not put the comment up. So, ha!
bring down the hammer.
Hava! So,
Hammer.
so on that note, that'll do it for our sixth class on Zelda. If you enjoyed this content, like and subscribe. Obviously, that's hugely helpful to us. Turn on notifications so you know when to come to class. Come and interact with us in any way, shape, or form in those comments below. We'd absolutely love any interaction. We love getting your comments. We send them to each other. We get excited about them. We respond to them because we like you. We also have our Twitter links. We have our Twitch links down there because we'd love to hang out with you on those platforms as well. And we will see you in the next class of Dead Funny University. Bye, friends.